Hello, welcome to Wyvern Minis. Apologies for my voice, it's that time of the year when the germ factories of nursery and school send their plagues out into the populace. So I'll just try and get through it without coughing too much or anything. But today we're talking about Heroquest. The best thing about Heroquest is customising your minis. Or is it? Maybe we'll find out as we go along. Seriously, there's some great videos by a guy called The Bard who talks about Heroquest. It's a fascinating game, really good. I've got a lot of history with it, and I played it recently and decided I really wanted to do something a bit more with the game itself and improve on the models you get in the box. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. Hopefully it'll be an enjoyable ride, a bit of history of the first models I got. But before we get to that, I'll do a little bit of an unboxing here, just to show you some of the things you get in the box. These are the enemies and the heroes: barbarian, the wizard, dwarf, and the elf. Those are the four main characters that you play as a party to get through the dungeon and do the quests. You do that using the special dice called bunny dice, because when you turn that upside down it looks a bit like a bunny, but that's a good shield. That's a skull. You roll the dice. If you get a skull, you hit. If you roll a shield to defend, you defend. And this is the gargoyle. That's the biggest monster in the box, and he's a bit of a bitch to destroy, actually. More enemies in the box. They've got Orcs and Goblins. For this new version they actually did some female orcs, which is interesting. So there's a few different sculpts there, little goblins as well. The basic enemies: orcs, goblins, zombies, skeletons, abominations. We'll come to those later, because I want to go into the more detail on those specific enemies. The rulebook there, nice short rulebook. It's not a very complicated game, which is good. There's various quests. This is the quest book, which you should only read if you're the dungeon master. But there's the extra quest books from the expansions, and this is the dungeon master's screen, so you can be behind that just to make sure that nobody can sneak a peek. It's very much like a simple version of D&D. You play it on the board, which keeps things nice and simple. Don't have to measure anything out, and it comes with various bits of dungeon furniture that you can adorn it with. Doors that you can open and look through, bookcases that you might be able to search in, things like that. Everything you need is there in the box. As far as I understand it, the gameplay is essentially unchanged in this newer version compared to the old 80s box. You have the dungeon master places the furniture in it. You've got the stairs that your heroes will descend down, and to start with you can only see what's in that room that you've gone into because the door's shut. Your four heroes start on the stairs, and then they begin the adventure from there. They have to walk over, open the door, maybe check for traps, because there could be traps in that room. Once they open the door, then they can see outside, see if there's any enemies. They can walk along the corridors to find other rooms. Very simple, moving square to square, can't move diagonally. And each hero can do an action and make a move in either order, but you can't split your movement. And that's basically how the game goes, and you continue from there. There might be some enemies in the corridor. You might go into another room and find that there's various bits of furniture blocking some squares, so the rooms aren't quite as big as you think they're going to be. Something I'll talk about a bit later is how some of the models are kind of large. You've got these very specific squares that everything has to fit into, and trying to fit things in is sometimes a little bit of a challenge if they're holding their arms out to the side, or their wings in the case of the gargoyle here. I think, bearing in mind that this isn't a miniatures war game on an open table, this is a board game. It's interesting. And when you go through the rooms, you can search. You might find various potions, or you might encounter a wandering monster. So there's always that element of danger that a monster might suddenly turn up when you're searching, which is very entertaining because the monster gets to immediately attack you. The Heroic Brew, that's the best potion of all, lets you attack twice. It's a great one. And of course, when you're attacking, you might use your sword or your axe in the case of a dwarf. Or maybe you'll use some spells. Both the wizard and the elf can cast spells, though the wizard is more proficient and has access to more schools of magic than the elf does. Various spells can do things like allow you to walk through walls or heal you up, or perhaps just attack, like the Ball of Flame, which does a significant amount of damage if it hits. Movement is achieved through the rolling of 2 dice, and as the bard says, this is one of the greatest things about Heroquest. He also says that one of the greatest things is ignoring the roll to move and just choosing. Because if you roll, you might roll a double 1 and get chased down by one of the enemies who have a fixed movement. I think that makes it quite exciting. But if we just assume that Barbarian's made his way into this room here to attack the skeleton, he rolls his dice. He hasn't rolled any skulls, so he's done no hits at all. But if he does manage to roll some skulls, then the defense dice get rolled, and then the monsters try to defend using their black shields, the bunnies. The heroes defend by rolling and trying to get white shields, which have got lions on. So it's very visual, very easy for kids. Yeah, it's just a simple combat system, which is really effective. So I did say this video was going to be a bit of a trip down memory lane, looking at some of the first models that I ever bought. I got these from a friend in the playground when I was, 7 or 8 years old, or 9 or something like that. It was a very, very long time ago. And I didn't know what they were, other than they were Orcs and Goblins. And the Fimir, I had no idea what they were. Well, I bought these Orcs and Goblins, I think I gave them 50p or something, for all of them, just a little bit of pocket money. And I've rebased the Orcs and the Goblins, done a bit of repainting on them, the Orcs to a slightly better standard than the Goblins, but I haven't repainted the Fimir. They are still painted with the original Humbrol acrylics I used, including a very nice gloss blue on one of them for some reason. I remember sitting in my grandpa's shed painting those years and years and years ago. I love them. I love the fact that I've kept them. The Orcs and Goblins I've kept and sort of updated to use in my Warhammer army. So they kick-started for me a lifelong love of Orcs and Goblins. And I love combining older and newer models together. I mean, to be fair, these are all pretty old models, but the Heroquest Orcs sit together quite nicely with the classic monopose, plastic Orc warriors, and even these really, really old Orc warriors I got from a set when I was at Games Day. They're made of white plastic, and that came in a set of Orcs and Dark Elves and some other warriors. It was a Fantasy Warriors regiment box, I think it was. But yeah, these old models have a lot of character. They all sit quite nicely next to each other. The paint jobs, I mean, very bright colours. I love the kind of anarchic riot of colour that I put on there. It's, I think, quite a cool ragtag bunch of orcs, really. A nice regiment of 25 orcs. They're ready to rank up, ready for the old world to come back. I'm looking forward to getting them on the table. I've got a few more sitting in a box, so I can have another regiment of 25 or combine them together to make one large regiment. But yeah, I think when I come to paint the other ones, I might have to try and stick to this sort of colour scheme, at least with the Goblin Green bases. There's always the question I find with, do you want to go back and update all your old paint jobs, or do you want to keep them as a kind of historical record of your painting? Personal preference, isn't it? But I think I've got lots of newer models to paint, so I won't go back and repaint these ones. But anyway, I love them. I think the old Heroquest models are great. But yes, Mentor, you're right. Let's get back to Heroquest. So Heroquest models were my first introduction to modelling and gaming, and I really wanted to play the game. But I never had it. But here is the old original board, which I got when I was a teenager, when I walked past a charity shop with my nana, and they had Heroquest in the window. I thought, brilliant, This is before the days of Amazon or whatever, where you can order whatever you want. This was back in the old days. And the charity shop was closed on Sunday, so we left a little note and she went back to get it the next day. I had to go home because I had school. So she went in to buy this box of Heroquest for me, which is very kind, only to find that it was a box with just a board in it. No models, no rules, no dice, no anything else at all. And it transpired that the charity shop had 2 copies of the Heroquest game in the shop, but a few days earlier someone else had been in there and they were sitting looking at the 2 games for a long time, and the charity shop guy realised that he must have been transferring all the miniatures and all the paraphernalia from one box to the other and just leaving behind the board. I mean, it was a charity shop. What kind of person does that? It's just ridiculous. So anyway, I've had this Heroquest board for decades now, without any rules or anything to play the game. So when they decided to redo Heroquest, I decided I had to get it, and I'm glad that it's such a faithful reproduction of the original. You can see that the squares are a bit smaller than the old one. These bases are 25mm bases that I've printed out. And they fit perfectly inside the squares on the new board, but they're a bit too big for the old one. Because the models are a bit smaller, the board, is a little bit smaller overall. But in terms of the artwork, I mean, it's very, very close. They've even matched the scattered bits of skeleton on the floor in that purple room there. It's very, very similar to what it used to be. But what about the models? How do they stack up? Well, unfortunately, this is where I was severely disappointed by this release. I mean, the 4 heroes look pretty cool. They're a decent design. You can see clearly what they are from a distance, and they're absolutely fine as playing pieces. But it's all bendy plastic, and unfortunately, that's the trend with a lot of miniatures board games nowadays, is using this bendy plastic, which I suppose arguably is better for playing pieces, but it's not good for models. Look at this gargoyle, his bendy axe, it doesn't even stay straight in his hand. I mean, the design of the gargoyle is quite cool. It's just a shame about the bendy plastic. They've also changed a few things, so instead of having Fimir, they've got these Sahwagan. They call them abominations, which is a lot easier to say, and also doesn't get them in trouble with D&D, because Sahwagan might be a D&D thing. The orc models, I like the idea. They've gone for some different sculpts, they've gone for some females as well, but the sculpts themselves, I mean, the faces don't look great, and again, bendy plastic. She's got a bendy mace. What's that all about? It really puts me off playing a game having the lower quality models, to be honest with you, which is a shame, because in other ways the game's been designed very nicely and it maintains the flavour of the original, as far as I can tell anyway, not having played the original myself because of some arsehole in a charity shop stealing all the pieces. The Dread Warriors here, Dread Warriors instead of Chaos Warriors, because they don't want to get in trouble with Games Workshop, which is fair enough. I wouldn't want to get in trouble with them either. But again, bendy maces, the design is okay, but they're just sort of generic armours, warriors in armour. I mean, I think we could do better. In terms of the furniture's okay. There's a little bit of flex and bend in there, but I think that can be lived with in the furniture. But in terms of the models, I thought, I don't really want to live with that. I want to have better models. So the best thing about Heroquest is customising your models, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'll cover that in the next video, because this one has waffled on for quite a while. So I'll sort of leave it there. I'll just finish it off by showing the foam insert that I got for Heroquest. This is from Felder, I believe. They make some really nice custom foam inserts for board games. This one they've done fits the Heroquest stuffing really nicely. Obviously, if I go ahead and get a load of different models, it's not going to fit quite so well, but I think that's the price I'm willing to pay. I'll keep all these old models anyway, if I replace them with new ones. they could be really good practice models for my daughter to have a go at painting. And actually, my daughter is the main reason why I started this project of replacing the models, because we played a game of Heroquest last weekend. Had a guy from the Games Club come over with his 2 boys. They're a little bit older than she is, in primary school and secondary school, and she's only in infants. But the way that the kids played together, it was just fantastic. I DM'd the game. She played as the elf, which I think is the only female character that comes in the box. And the 2 boys and their dad played as the other 3 characters. The teamwork between the kids was just fantastic. It was a joy to play the game with them. I really didn't think she'd be able to hold the attention span, because she's only 4, nearly 5. But she played through 2 quests, a couple of hours each. We had lunch in the middle. I mean, it was fantastic, really fun, and it shows the genius of this game, I suppose, because it's got enough simplicity that kids can play it, but enough depth and fun that adults can play it along with them as well. Supposed grown-ups, as we are. But yeah, it was fantastic. Really, really fun day playing this game, and it made me think, I wish I had nicer models to play it with. So that's what I thought I needed to do. I needed to get some nicer models, paint them up, and then be able to play this game more, because the poor quality of the models does make me a bit reluctant to get the box out sometimes, which is a shame. So yeah, next video I'll show my thought process behind selecting what models I'm going to get to replace these ones, and you hopefully will agree or maybe disagree with the choices. But I'm going to get quite a few different options, replace all the models, and then get them all painted up, and that'll be that, and it'll be a whole new set of Heroquest to play with. So until then, adventurers, enjoy yourselves. Goodbye.